I don't say this enough, but some things are more important than money. Things like family. Last week, I had a chance to speak with ESPN's Adam Schefter, perhaps the best sports reporter around, especially during football season. Normally, I grill about my fantasy team, but this time we had a much more serious conversation. Adam's just written a great book. It's called The Man I Never Met, which is a reference to his wife's previous husband, who lost his life in the World Trade Center on September 11th. It's a fascinating and deeply relevant story, so take a look. Adam, we all know you as probably the great sports reporter of our era.
Thank you, Jim.
What we didn't know you is that you're a diarist and that you're a very sober reflector upon what happened on 9/11. The Man I Never Met, which is a book that was the most sobering I've read in a long time, seems out of character with the man we see on ESPN. Explain who you are. Explain who Joe Mayo is.
Well, I think that people sometimes confuse people with their professional personas. I know you are so closely associated with money, and that is a part of your identity, but you were a brilliant man and know so many things about so many different aspects of life. And in this particular case, this is a story that initially ran on ESPN on the 15th anniversary of 9/11. It was a tribute to my wife's late husband, who perished that day. It was a way to honor his memory, and it was a way to salute my wife for the toughness and bravery that she showed after 9/11, raising a 15-month-old son on her own. They had just moved out to a house on Long Island a month before. They were in that house when 9/11 happened, and her life was basically had a wrecking ball taken to it. So this book is a way to honor Joe's memory, to give his son a chance to better know his father, his biological father, and for everybody to get to know the great Joe Mayo. And this was a great man, Jim.
I want to talk about Joe because I knew Cramer and I know people who did business with Joe. And I never told you this, but he was a larger-than-life figure who scratched a business together out of personality. You never met him, but you did get to find out who he is and tell other people about him in this book.
Well, Joe is somebody who, oddly enough, fascinates me. And I can't imagine that there are very many people who have ever written a book about their spouse's first spouse. Certainly not in a flattering way. But Joe is somebody who passed away, lost his life at the age of 32.
At Cramer, where he was a hitter.
A big hitter, and was enormously successful and had a huge future ahead of him and had his life snuffed out for him before it began. And he took the ferry into work that day, and it's documented in the book, and it's the sliding doors of life, because that day in the afternoon, he had to be in Connecticut. And he weighed the decision, what should he do? Should he go straight to Connecticut? Should he go into the office in the morning? And ultimately decide to take the ferry to Lower Manhattan, to the World Trade Center, and we know what happened that day. But he was an incredible man. He was revered, respected, charismatic, charming, great character, handsome, everything that you'd want in a man, everything that you want your daughter to marry. And again, the tragedy that happened that day snuffed out his life.
A lot of this book is about I feel, the attempt to get on past September 12th and how hard September 12th was for people and how much you played a role in your fabulous wife's renaissance. But at the same time, it's never going to change. It's still always going to be a part of September 12th.
9/11 is there every single day. And I know we commemorate it every year. And I know my wife feels like it should be done more often. People, our country remembers all the victims and all the tragedies that happened to so many people, thousands of people here on the East Coast. But that's something where this story represents not only a tribute to Joe and to Sherry, my wife, but a sign that life does go on, that there is hope after grief, that there are heartwarming stories that come out of heartbreak. And that is a big part of this book. And I think that's part of why the piece that initially ran on ESPN on the 15th anniversary, it resonated so much with so many people. It touched them, moved them, and inspired them. And that led to the book, because that 6.5-minute television story turned into a 200-page, much more detailed, much more personal book.
Last question. How about the irony? We all know you as the fantasy football guru. Fantasy. This is more than reality. This is a tough read, Adam, and not because it's not you're a bad writer. It's tough because it's so the opposite of fantasy.
Well, you know what it is? It's life. And my wife Sherry says all the time that everybody's got something. So these are our somethings here to see. And it goes to show you that life is not some Instagram post that we see every day where everything is great and joyous and happy all the time. We have a lot of happiness in our life. We all do. But there's some sadness and there's some reality as well.
Yeah, and this is how people are remembered. And when people stop talking about a person's name, that's when they disappear.
Well, Joe's not going to disappear.
Excellent. Okay, that's Adam Schefter, ESPN analyst and author of The Man I Never Met, which is a must-read, but also a sad must-read with hope at the end. Mad Money's back after the break. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.